One here. So in just a second, you should be seeing my PowerPoint here. So big thanks to everyone for coming out today. Also big thanks to Frank and everyone at the CleanMug team for, giving us a platform to speak here. We really love these user groups, and we're glad that you guys are still going strong here. We know that a lot of this has kind of fallen through with COVID and stuff, so I'm glad that you guys are able to keep this going. We're really happy to be able to sponsor you guys. So today we're going to cover kind of our favorite features within the whole suite of Recast products. We're not just going to talk right-click tools. We're going to talk right-click tools and Endpoint Insights, as well as Shift Left, which is one maybe you haven't heard of yet. So let's jump right into it. So for your host today, you have myself, Kody Walla. I'm a product marketing engineer for the Recast team. Before Recast, I was a senior sysadmin, so I made the jump to the dark side of marketing recently. And going with the theme of Gen Con 2022 just ending last week, my favorite board game is Candyland. So it's a pretty pedestrian board game for sure. Courtney, you want to give a quick little intro?
Yeah, I'm Courtney. I am a solutions engineer. Also, I used to do the technical support as well at Recast. Before this, I was a system engineer and actually used the right-click tools in the wild, so I have a little experience with it. And I had a hard time picking my favorite board game because I like to play board games. So right now, it's this kind of like a travel-y kind of game where you can take anywhere. It's called Fantasy Realms, and it's a lot of fun.
Yeah, so Courtney and I are kind of polar opposites on that. Like, she's a big board game person. So drop your favorite board game / tabletop game in the chat. Interesting to see. I was really torn between Candyland and Sorry, so that should tell you everything you need to know there. So on the agenda today, we'll give you kind of a quick introduction to right-click tools, kind of what we're all about. And then we'll give demos on right-click tools, the Recast Management Server, Endpoint Insights, and Shift Left. At the end, we'll have a QA, but feel free to drop your questions in the chat as well. I'll try to keep up with those and pass those over to the expert Courtney for review. And then at the end, we'll have a gift card giveaway to our promo shop, so you can get some pretty cool Recast branded merch.
Including shoes, which I thought was really cool
Yeah.
personally, but
Mm-hmm.
and those might be on order, and I will be wearing them at next MMS.
I was gonna say I want to see those at MMS for sure. So make sure you order
Definitely.
those if you win. So kind of the three pillars of right-click tools. This is kind of where we, as we're thinking of new tools or looking at the tools that we have currently, these are the kind of realms that we need these tools to fit into for you. So improve productivity. We're trying to make workflows that work for you, and they're like one click. We don't want you to have to go through and build out a whole workflow. So Actionable Insights is the next piece of that. We have a lot of dashboards that we offer. And the great thing about these dashboards is we bring all the info in, but you can also take action right from within those dashboards as well. It's not like, hey, here's the info, so now you go out and remote into this guy's computer and go fix this issue. You can take that action right from within those dashboards. And the last piece of that is powerful automation. We have a tool called Builder Runner that allows you to build your own right-click tools. So we put all of the pieces that we use to build our tools right at your fingertips so that you can build your own automations and workflows. So that's kind of the three areas that we try to fit into. This is just a select group of our customers, so it kind of shows you that we run the whole gamut of industries that we support. So let's jump into the dashboard walkthrough. Courtney, would you want to give us a rundown of some of your favorite right-click tools?
Sure. I mean, I guess I have to, but I mean,
I'll let you take over sharing there.
awesome. Let's share my screen. There we go. So some of my favorite right-click tools have kind of helped me when I was a sysadmin, helped increase productivity, helped do all sorts of things, and also, which was my favorite, was helping me not to have to talk to people, customers, clients, like that, because
Man.
if I'm talking to a customer, then I'm doing, or a user, I am doing something wrong. Also, they never respond back to you, so that happens. So one of my favorite is under console tools. So console tools kind of are more of your device overview kind of tools. They target like the device itself. So system information gathers a lot of information that might help you in everyday troubleshooting, or one of them is building apps, because I was building a lot of apps in my last role. So under operating systems, you can get a quick glance at what operating systems you have, but you can also see like things like last boot time, which if you ever had to talk to a user, they're like, "Yeah, I just restarted," and you're like, "Did you?" And you can check and see, or maybe this computer's having a lot of issues. It's been a month or two since it's been restarted. Um, I think I saw a meme earlier that it was 365 days and change of how long it's been restarted, which I thought was really impressive. Um, and you can also see if a device is pending a restart, especially if you're having updates, trying to get compliance, things like that. And you'll be like, "Oh, I just need to restart the thing." And then even from here, I can select any number of devices and go ahead, and then I have the right click tools inside the right click tools. So then I could say, "Hey, this is pending a restart," and go ahead and restart it. Or um, maybe I'm like, "Okay, well, I need to restart this, but I don't know if someone's using it." So I can go ahead and go to user sessions and see, there it looks like one person's actively using their device, so I probably don't want to touch this. But these two have been disconnected for a little while, so maybe I'll go ahead and restart it. Maybe I want to go ahead and log them off because they don't need to be on their machine. Um, Things like that. Or I determine, hey, look, it doesn't look like someone's logged into that machine, and I can go ahead and restart it. You also have access to like the hardware information from here. Applications where I found a lot of use cases for, and helped me out a lot, because it grabs this uninstall string down here, which if you're building apps, sometimes it's a pain to go in the registry and go find the uninstall string. So you can just, select, let's see, let's do 7-zip. I could just use the copy paste, well, copy in this case, and I can go ahead and paste it and grab that uninstall string from here in your handy dandy notepad or sticky notes, whatever you prefer, a note, things like that. So you can go ahead and actually copy that information for a device or application, sorry. Um, and then if you see the uninstall string as well, you can go ahead and uninstall from here. So I don't know how many times I've seen someone download something off the internet and you're like, "This isn't supposed to be here." And then you can go ahead and actually just uninstall it from here. Um, it doesn't have to be like an application that's actually been installed through Config Manager. Someone downloads, you know, something off the internet, not supposed to. Some people like to download Steam on their computers, something like that. You can go ahead and delete that. You can see which devices looks like, these two devices have Edge. Go ahead and uninstall it, things like that. You can also see Windows updates. So if you're looking to make sure that this particular update is installed on devices, you can go ahead and look at that as well. Services came in handy quite often, because I don't want to have to go onto a device and go ahead and restart a service. So I can actually select service, go ahead and start it, stop it, restart it. This is great where some people have like remote registry is disabled in their environment, so they need to get it started. Go ahead and see, look, looks like the startup type is all automatic for these, but if I wanted to go ahead and maybe disable it, I could, or maybe change it to start automatic, and it would change the startup type, and I don't have to actually go onto the device and mess around with services and interrupt someone's workday. And go ahead and restart services. You can see some information about drivers as well. Um, if you're interested in that, personally, never really interested me most of the time, but you never know. You can also search up here, which is great if you're looking for something specific. User profiles, you can also see all the different user profiles on a device. Um, so like this Brandon test, if I was testing user profile, I can go ahead and see if it's loaded, when it was last used, and I can delete it if I need to. Like, this doesn't need to be on this computer. This is someone that left the organization. They still have stuff. I don't want it anymore. Go ahead and delete it. Make sure that someone's not actually using it. And then sometimes help desk likes to get likes to not do things the proper way, and so they'll delete part of a profile, but not all of it. So maybe it's in registry, forgot to delete the registry key, but they deleted the folders like that. You can see if any of these profiles might be broken. Um, Someone might be having a hard time logging into a device. You can just check really quickly. Oh, their profile path exists, but they're not in the registry. Go ahead and fully delete it. Things like that. Remediate it if you need to. Things like that.
Real quick, we do have one question in the chat.
Yes.
Applications that do not require elevation for installation, i.e. user install applications, will those show in the applications list here or just the machine-wide installed?
So in this one, it would only show the device installed applications. We do actually have we actually do grab that information with Endpoint Insights, and so there's a few reports revolving around user installed devices or applications. I mean,
Mhm.
so you could see through Endpoint Insights, which I think Kody might be talking about
Yep.
here
When I
later.
talk about that, we'll be taking a look at user install programs for sure.
Yeah.
Thanks, Court.
hmm there's user sessions, and then there's also local group members. So you can see um, on a device who's a part of the local group. So this in this case, like administrators, I want to make sure that no one is in here that's not supposed to. I can double check that. See, maybe Gordon Freeman's not supposed to be on here, so I can go ahead and remove them from here. If I want, I can see which devices he's on. I can delete it from part of, two of the three, and just remove him from that group. See, like remote desktop users is pretty popular as well, and for which devices they're a part of. And then, if you have a laptop, which this is not a none of these are laptops, they happen to be VMs, you can see the battery information for, see if like a laptop's charging, discharging, battery life, things like that in here. So that one's one of my favorite tools. It got me through a lot of tickets in there. Um,
So with system information, this is available to our community users, right? So,
it is for one device.
right, I was going
So
to say, what's the difference? What are we seeing different here when you get into the enterprise mode?
yeah, so for enterprise customers, you can do it against a whole collection, all the devices, one device, multiple. For community user, you still have access to this, but you can only do it on one device at a time. So it's a little slower, but it is available, so you still get use out of
Yep.
that
So with
tool.
enterprise, you're getting more scalability.
Correct. And yeah, who wants to go delete after every one device?
Right.
So run it against multiple. Um, so that tool is under devices. And then another one of my favorites is under applications because, like I said earlier, my previous role was I was in applications a lot, building all sorts of things, managing them, things like that. Um, so, one of the ones that is just a quick one that I like to use was um, under deployment types. Uh, y- Most of the time, when you're trying to find where the heck someone put an application, most of the time go in here and see what the content is, and you're like, ah, this is the content location. It's kind of a pain, multiple steps. There's a right click tool for that. It's open content source folder, which saves just, I mean, it only saves a couple seconds sometimes, but it's so much easier than having to copy paste, open the thing, and type in the location. And it just takes you right there. It's great. It's just a little one that I like to do, but most people don't realize it's a thing that's there. So this is one of my hidden little gems. Right. That is not deployed. Let's find a thing that has been deployed. Do, 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 do. So another kind of cool one is deployment launcher. So I've deployed this application to a bunch of devices. I'm at 95% compliant, but I really want to get to 100. I can go to the right click tools and, uh, you know, either hit rerun deployment. I could do things against the deployment itself. So if I wanted to rerun the deployment, I could do something like that. Ping the devices. But when you open it, so if I go ahead and hit rerun deployment, it comes up with this little wizard. So I could just target what I want to do. So this works for any deployment type. You can be like, I only want to do it on the two aired out in this case. Why bother you with the successful things like that? So if you find deployment, right click on it and want to use some sort of right click tool on it, you have the option of determining what success. So if sometimes that's important for like cycles because you want those two devices to check in that are failing on things like that. You can also check in on like remote software center. So I want to choose the successful ones because I'm pretty sure those aired out ones are having issues. So you can see what remote software center looks like, and looks like a few error message for those two devices, but I can pull up this on only certain devices, see what's going on. Maybe I can't ping those two devices, things like that. So I can go ahead and ping the deployment. And I'm just going to choose those two. See if we can ping them. It looks like I can ping them, so why isn't it installed? So then, I see that these two can be pinged, so then, you know, then I can go into more information. And I have the right click tools inside the right click tools. And sometimes what I like to do is just start clicking on things and right clicking on it and see if there's an option to do something. Which is how when I first started here, I found a few tools like that open content source folder, and I never knew it existed because I didn't bother right clicking on something. So you can do things like that. So they're right click tools inside right click tools, which is really nice, where you get the information and then you want to do something against it, um, save some time, energy, things like that. I forgot my agenda. Let's see. What is after this, Cody?
Where can we manage this centrally, Courtney?
Ah,
Is there a
yes, right.
central place that we can manage all of this? Bring all of our recast tools into one place.
All right, I wouldn't go that far, but you can see a lot of things and help administrate it. Um, so this is our recast management server. It's a web interface where it has access to kind of control the right click tools, see what people are doing, things like that. So if you have any recast agents, which are necessary for Endpoint Insights, you can go ahead and see um, what agents are connected, their versions, things like that. You can unauthorize if you or like this device is no longer is missing or something like that. You can just unauthorize it, delete it, things like that. You can also see an audit log, which is really nice for when you don't trust people or someone in the demo environment decides to restart all the VMs because they thought it was just a testing environment and not a production environment. So they restarted it while everyone's doing demos. So then you got to shame them mercilessly. Words are hard. You get what I'm saying. So you can see what they're doing, who's doing what. You can see results as well. So I could see if that ping computer, what it came back with, things like that. Um, it's also a nice place to centrally manage your licenses. So anyone that's connecting will grab the license instead of individually licensing, like you have to do with like community or the standalone version. Um, so you can see we have some expiring soon to be expiring licenses, so we can go ahead and upload those. And then everyone in our demo environment would get a new license and we don't have to worry about touching every device. Permissions is also really nice as, I don't trust help desk so much sometimes. So having the ability to tell them they can only use certain right click tools can be very nice and keep them out of too much trouble. So you can make custom roles for like support desk, help desk, administrators, things like that. And then it's all tied to AD, so you don't have to worry about having a separate login, anything like that. It just goes off of pretty much whatever credentials are used to log into Config Manager. And we'll see if their account is in here or if they're part of an AD group that is also part of here. We also have options for environments that might be a little bit more fun and have a little bit more hoops to jump through, I guess. So, like, if you have multiple domains, CMG, we have maybe limited access to admin privileges and things like that. We have ways to kind of get around those things like the fast channel, which allows you to run the right click tools. If you have a CMG, we just use config manager's fast channel, and most of our tools will work over that. And then multiple domains, including ones that are untrusted, work group computers, things like that. This recast management server allows you to actually be able to use the right click tools on places that you might not necessarily be able to get to with the credentials logged into config manager. And then another fun aspect are the web version of the dashboards. So we have several dashboards in our right click tools that show a lot of information, but they require you going into config manager. So we have the ability to have like a web version of those dashboards so you can give them to people you might not trust in config manager that might break something like managers. You can give them access to look at the pretty pictures, but not actually be able to do anything against those devices. So um, you can see like our Active Directory cleanup. This is our trends. So what this is it pretty much takes like a snapshot of what your environment looks like over time for each of those dashboards and shows your compliance over time. So you can actually see a bunch of these dots, and you can go ahead and actually click on them, and it will pull up what the dashboard looked like at that time. So you can see our compliance was a little lower because these 4 devices aren't in config manager, they're only in Active Directory. So I can go ahead and maybe remediate that. You can show, hey, look, our software updates are doing so well after, Patch Tuesday. You can download these as images and just email them to someone and be like, hey, look at us, we're doing so good. So you have those kind of options. And then these are the web dashboards that you can just use from here as well. So you can give explicit permissions just to the recast management server. Now I think it's your turn, Kody.
All right, let's jump back into the config manager console again here. Let me share my screen. Okay, we'll get this out of the way. So my first favorite tool here is called Remote Software Center, and Courtney actually kind of spoiled that earlier. So I'm a little bitter about that, but let's take a look here. So we'll jump into our Remote Software Center here as soon as I can read. All right, so this is pretty obvious what this is. It's just like if you were to pull up Software Center on a machine, you're going to get most of that same functionality out of this tool without having to, remote it to that tool and pull it up. So on the first tab here, we have the applications, which Courtney showed us a little bit earlier here. So we have all of the applications that are available to be installed on this device, as well as like their install state. So we noticed that this device or this application here hasn't been installed yet. So we could go ahead and kick off the install on that. Or maybe we don't want Edge on this machine anymore. We could go ahead and hit uninstall. And if we drill down, we get a little bit more info into these things. Like if we had a failed install here, we could see the error code behind it and the last time it was evaluated here. But we can also go in at the top here and switch over from the applications that are available to this device to the ones that are available to the user. So we can see that I have Procmon available to be installed if I want to here, and it gives us the status as not installed here. So I could go ahead and kick that off if I wanted to. And then we can also see the software updates that are available to this machine. So we've got one available here, as well as we can drill down a little further here and get the compliance status and the evaluation state. We could see if this is pending a reboot or what percent we're at on this. So I could go ahead and click on that and install it if I needed to here. We also have our task sequences available here. This one says do not run, so let's go ahead and hit that and hit install. I think that'll be fine. But we can also see, last run status, error codes on the last run, and how long it took us to run the last time. And then finally, we have our compliance tab. So this is going to give us our compliance baselines. We could go ahead and reevaluate these compliance baselines if we needed to, if this hadn't been run yet. And this is another one of those tools where we can, if we're an enterprise user, we can go ahead and run this at scale as well. I could go ahead and right click, bring up our client tools again here, and run Remote Software Center against multiple machines here once it wants to load. And then we can drill down further if we need to take any more actions from there. So that's Remote Software Center. That's a pretty powerful tool. Let's say that's a good tool. If you want to get maybe your help desk, you've got a help desk guy that you want to get his toes a little wet in the config man space, that'd be a good place to start for sure.
Or just the fact that you don't have to go onto a device.
Yeah,
which is really nice.
through that. Don't have to remote into. You don't have to leave the config manager console. That's kind of like the whole key here. Is like you're in this one pane of glass.
Yeah, it's my favorite aspect.
Yeah, for sure. You don't have 1,000 tabs open. Yeah. So the next tool on my list here is the remote window security, which is kind of in the same realm here. So we'll go ahead and open up our right-click tools. We'll go to security tools, and then we'll pull up a remote window security. And this is going to be a really powerful tool if you're using Defender in your environment. So once we pull it up here, we have the Defender tab is the first thing we're greeted with. We've got whether it is protected with Defender, if real-time protection is turned on, the current signature version, client version, engine version. Then we can go ahead and drill down further here to see the last signature update, the last full scan, the last scan. We can also go ahead and kick off a quick scan, a full scan, or update our definitions right from within here. So if you've got some devices that are lagging behind in Defender versions, you could go out there and kick this off. We also have exclusions. We can add exclusions in or remove exclusions right from within here.
Well, you can't remove.
We can remove.
You can look at the exclusions.
You can look at the exclusions? Okay.
Yeah, no.
I'm getting ahead of the capabilities here. Sorry. So the firewall section, we can see our 3 firewall profiles, as well as some information about each of those within here. Cool thing is you can find the log file. So if you need to know where this log file is at this super long path, you can grab it right out of here. Next up, we've got the firewall rules section. This will give you a list of all of the firewall rules. It gives you like their action, the direction, which profile this sits under. So this is, private and public have this rule, whether it's enabled or disabled. And then we can go ahead and click further in to see some additional information as well. The next one is, this is kind of a big one for people that are getting ready for Windows 11. We've got the BitLocker section, which covers our drives. It gives you whether it's protected, the encryption method, conversion status, and then we've got some key protectors as well here. So it lists if TPM is active on this device. And we can also go ahead and, if this device was not protected, we could go ahead and either encrypt it or resume. And then we can also do some actions with our keys. If we needed to grab our BitLocker key, we could pull it right out of we could back it up here. And then we could right click on the device here, go to security or go to security tools and pull up our BitLocker key. Hopefully this one. Nope, it does not. So if we wanted to, we could go ahead and right click and pull up our BitLocker key right from there. Another big Windows 11 section here gives our TPM status, as well as the TPM version number, and if it's active, disabled, owned. So we can kind of check this device if we're ready to move forward with Windows 11 being installed on that machine, as well as another big piece of Windows 11 being if UEFI is enabled. So we can see UEFI is enabled on this device, as well as secure boot, which is another big piece of that puzzle. And then finally, within the remote window security, we have the virtualization-based security, which gives us some more of those virtualization-related items. Another big thing with this, too, is that we can run this at scale as well. So if we wanted to check, you know, a handful of maybe like pilot machines to see if TPM is enabled, that we could run our Windows 11 upgrade to, we could do that at scale. And that is all I have for right-click tools. So let's move on to Endpoint Insights. So if you're not aware of what Endpoint Insights is another product that we offer. It's a separately licensed product, so you could have Right-Click Tools Enterprise but not have Endpoint Insights. And you can have Endpoint Insights without having Right-Click Tools. You don't have to have both. So what Endpoint Insights does is unlocks a lot of extra data points for your devices. So let's take a look at what data points we are unlocking with Endpoint Insights. I always go to Right-Click Tools, but we got to go to Start Resource Explorer here. And let's pull up some of our data points here. So you can see this is pretty standard looking Resource Explorer, but we have a whole section here with a bunch of stuff that starts with EI. So these are kind of all of those pieces of the EI puzzle that we're unlocking for you and bringing into your config manager database. So the first piece here, we have the applications related to config manager. We've got our local groups here, as well as what we've got the user with the groups.
So for the application one, it will show you if users installed. That's where that would be located. But it also shows things that haven't been installed through config manager, just like what's on that actual device.
Right. And I don't believe I have any user installed programs, so I don't think we'll see it here. But in one of my reports later on, I'll show you a whole group of user installed programs and what the difference is, or what it looks like compared to something that would be installed from a device standpoint. And then we have our monitors. So that's another big piece of the puzzle that we're bringing in, is information about monitors that are connected, how they're connected, the resolutions on those. And from here, we can also see, you know, if this is a virtual monitor or if it's like if it's a laptop, it'll say that it's like an internal monitor. So you can see all of the screens associated with the device. And we have a whole section on ODBC, if that's something you're into. You can take a look at that real quick. We've got EI packages. We've got any of our shares that we were running off this machine would be showing here, but I'm not really running any shares off this. Then we also have our shared or user map drive. So this is a big one if you're doing more of like a white glove experience for your computer replacements. I know a big thing that I ran into with a lot of people is you get them a new computer, you get it installed. 2 hours later, they're like, "Where's my Z drive?" And you're like, "What is your Z drive?" Like, I have no idea what that is. It's not something that's mapped by group policy. This would be a place that you could come out there and find that information. You know, it'll give you the drive letter as well as where that drive is located. And another big thing too is map printers when you're doing that refresh too. Some kind of printer that's not installed by group policy, no clue where it's at. You could come out to Endpoint Insights and grab that information as well as any user programs. So that's kind of all the pieces that we're bringing in. And that's all being brought right into your config manager database through a WMI provider. And kind of the cool thing about that is that we're bringing all that information in and we build reports around that, but you can also take that information and do what you want with it. So let's say you had a group of devices that are all using the same docking station. You could go into config man, create a query rule to create a device collection all using that, or devices that are all using that specific docking station, and then, you know, push maybe like a firmware update to it or something. So let's go ahead and take a look at some of these reports that I've been talking about. So under the Assets and Compliance tab, we have the Recast Software node here. We also have an Endpoint Insights tab here that we can click into. And this gives us kind of like a curated group of reports that work well with right-click tools. So let's go ahead and grab the software update status dashboard here. And what this is going to do is it's going to give us a full overview of the security status or the security update status of our entire organization. I'm running this against all systems here, so we're going to get a lot of info that we probably don't need, but we can see kind of our overall compliance level of our software updates. And then it's broken down further by the update type, as well as we get, definitions. We could click into here and see maybe devices are pretty behind on our definitions. We could go ahead and pull this up if it loads, and then we can, get more granular with it too. We can pick a specific definition here, go to our computer count, click on that. That'll give us all of the devices that are behind on this definition. And then the cool thing right from within here, we can actually left click in this case. Usually right click, we'll left click here. We'll get all of our right click tools. So if we wanted to, we could go out and pull up maybe remote Windows security and kick off that whatever definition update we need to right from within this report. So the next report we'll take a look at here is we'll pull up our software dashboard.
We do have a couple questions.
Okay,
Second.
go for it.
So one was about the recast agent. What is the default recast agent refresh policy? I think, do you mean like how often does it check in or how often does it get updated? Because it's really just a service that runs. And if you're using it for like the right click tools, it just runs when you're telling it to, hey, right click and do something. And that will help elevate the privileges. It's also, that's what our WMI provider is. So, or it installs it, the recast agent. So if you have Endpoint Insights, the recast agent is required and it just runs. There's a few triggers, but usually it runs just once a day. And then like when a user logs in, so we can get that user installed information and anything user based. But it doesn't take a lot of bandwidth, doesn't really do, doesn't hog any resources, things like that.
Yeah, it's pretty lightweight.
Yeah. And then we had another one: to use the right click tools, Endpoint Insights always has to be on, correct? Just wondering if adding the full version with a recast server allows for right click tools to queue tasks if they happen to be offline. So with the right click tools, those are usually like connecting to the device actively. So you can use things like the recast. We have our automation, so the builder and runner, and you can schedule things, but it wouldn't queue it for it to become online. It would just try to run it whatever that scheduled time is, and then if it's not online, it would fail. We don't quite have anything that just once it comes back online, it does something, but um, you can see if it's connected and things like that.
Is that it for the questions?
Yes. Sorry.
Perfect.
Go ahead.
All right, so let's take a look at our software dashboard. And this is going to give us a better view into what we're seeing when we have maybe a user installed program. So I'll take a look at our sales office collection here, and we're looking for both computer and user installed programs. We could go ahead and remove computer if we wanted to just see programs that are user installed. So we can see that we've got some Amazon products installed here. So there's Amazon Kindle app, which you can install in the user context. If we go ahead and click into the version number of this, we'll actually see which devices this program is installed on. And then it shows us the username that it is installed on as well. So you could go out there and maybe maybe this Chris guy, we need to fire this Chris guy for installing Amazon Kindle, because why? But we can also, anytime we see a blue computer name here, this is another place where we can take a right click tools action. So we could go ahead and pull up something like maybe system information to take some actions on this device as well.
Yeah. Hey, Kody, do you know
Yep.
with Endpoint Insights how much extra database space does
Yeah.
the information
So
take?
for per device, we're looking at 2 to 3 megabytes per device. So if you got 100 devices, you're looking at 200 to 300 more megs of space on your database. So it's not too bad.
Yeah, and that's just with Endpoint Insights.
Yep.
Right-click tools, it doesn't store anything.
hmm Yep, that's just the additional data that we're pulling into your database coming through. And then the last dashboard here that we'll take a look at will be our computer replacement cost dashboard. And this is going to tie in with the warranty information that we provide you. So with Endpoint Insights, with all of your devices, we reach out to the vendor to get your warranty information. And then this dashboard is a great place to kind of formulate a plan around when we need to replace our devices. So let me grab a collection here. We'll just see what the sales office looks like. So what this is going to give us is, and this is fully customizable too. You can put how long you're keeping your laptops for. We have 2,500 days here. How long we're keeping our servers, how long we're keeping our desktop, and how long we're keeping VMs, as well as replacement costs. So we have $600 in here for a laptop. Maybe you're, running like an ag business where you've got like $2,500 tough books or something like that. You could adjust this to meet your needs. So it's basically going to give us a breakdown of what we're looking at needing to be replaced within the next year, the next 3 years. You can break this down however you feel fit, but it's going to give us a cost basis for that too. So if you need to submit budgeting for it, for like a tech refresh cycle, this would be a great place to start and start pulling some of that budgeting information as well. So that's all I've got for Endpoint Insights. Courtney, would you like to talk about Shift Left, the last product in the Recast suite?
Yeah, I sure can.
The best for last.
Do you want to send out that poll?
Yep, I will right now, for sure.
Perfect. So if you have Config Manager and you have ServiceNow, we actually have an application that can help alleviate some of the sysadmin duties, I guess, and kind of push it back down to the help desk. So you have to do theoretically a little less work, and they can stop bothering you so much. So inside a incident, you you would your help desk would have an incident. They would come in, and in this case, we'll look at this ticket, and it looks like he needs to install an application because it doesn't have access. We have added these recast uh, icons so they could click on that. And we've added some actions that you could do in Config Manager with the right click tools, and we've added them into ServiceNow so that help desk or whoever's what might be in your service now could be able to do things, and you can limit what access or what like tools they have access to. um, so in this case, this is Chris. He's not going to be logged into any devices, but I could see which devices he's logged in, make sure I have the correct device, maybe things like that, reset his password if I need to, or unlock it. I also get some fun information about Chris that I've added for demonstration purposes. It was fun filling that out. And then there's also device oriented actions that you could take. So I could see information about this device. Looks like it's not pending a restart. When was the last boot time? And then I have some of the right click tools we've talked about in here, as well as a few others that we might not have necessarily talked about. I can grab BitLocker keys. I can see compliance, see that, oh, it is indeed compliant, or maybe it's not, and I need to evaluate it. So this allows your help desk to be a little bit more self-sufficient without, we'll ignore that, without having to come and either give them access to Config Manager, the right-click tools, things like that. They can install an application. So this ticket said, hey, I need help at installing an application, so I could go ahead and hit install, go ahead and uninstall something, things like that. Group policy update. They don't have to know how to go into command prompt and do a GP update. They can just do an easy click on the button and confuse them, hopefully a little less. Lapse password as well, if you have lapse and need to grab a password really quick, and then you don't have to give them admin credentials into that. This device doesn't have anyone logged in, but I can see if anyone's logged in, ping device, things like that. um, to restart a computer. If I know it maybe after hours, go ahead, restart it. Software updates as well. See if there's any available to the machine, and then task sequences. So we gave some of the help desk a little bit more ability to um, do things. They can say, hey, look, this is needs to install these software updates and go ahead and install it. Maybe you have sometimes people have like 24-hour crews, so there's help desk working at 2 a.m. Maybe it would be a great time for them to go ahead and start installing things for people having issues, um, things like that. And then there's also the it shows what you've been doing. So, maybe a device gets restarted and a customer complains, you'd be like, ah, look, looks like Courtney restarted it at, whatever time. So you have work notes and it logs what you've been doing. Um, so this is really good if you have ServiceNow and things like that.
So that kind of leads into the question in the chat as well. It says we are looking at moving our ticketing system to Salesforce cases. Are you aware of any work being done to add similar functions for other ticketing systems?
Uh,
And I think this falls under feature requests.
yes. So currently we don't have anything for um, ticketing systems outside of ServiceNow right now. But feature request, if we get enough traction into maybe a different ticketing system, things like that, um, we might, be willing to invest into a different ticketing system as well, and keep expanding. But we do like to hear from the community, and that's kind of how the right-click tool started. Was people were like, "Hey, this is really a pain. Config Manager doesn't do X, Y, and Z. It's taking me, I have to run a cycle. I have to log into a device and go ahead and run a cycle, things like that." So we've taken community feedback and what problems a lot of sysadmins run into, and we've tried to build our tools off of that. So if anyone has any ideas, things like that, go ahead and add it to the feature request. Go in there and vote for your favorite ones as well. I spent a good like hour combing through them one of these days and just started voting for them, um, the ones that I liked. So
I
go
just
ahead.
dropped the link in the chat there. And one
Perfect.
thing I would note too is like this isn't just like a black hole of feature requests. Like there's a lot of places where you put in a feature request and it just sits out there and nobody looks at it. This is something that we are constantly looking at. So your voice will be heard if this is something that's like commonly needed for sure.
Yeah, and if you're not a community user yet, and any of these things seem interesting, go ahead and download the free tools. Uh, Honestly, like you take nothing from this. Just if you have Config Manager, the free tools, they're free. You don't get as much things out of it, but
Hmm. It's
not
a
as
great
many
place to start.
features. Yeah, exactly. That's how I got started. I happened to move. I had the right click tools and I moved to a different company, and I forgot how to use Config Manager without it. And that was the first thing I
That's a good
downloaded.
problem to have.
Yeah, right. It makes for a great story, but it's 100% true. I was like, I just need to run this cycle. Okay, now I have to go do other things. All right, let me just download this. First thing I did. So yeah, free tools at the very least. And there's also resources too. So if you're having any issues or want to learn, um, like having like small issues or like error messages, things like that, we do have our documentation. So this is more of our technical documentation. It's just docs.recastsoftware.com. But you can see we've added some videos to a lot of them, kind of explaining, what's going on, how to install, uninstall, uninstall strings in here, things like that. You can get more information about certain features uh, and things like that. So you can peruse this at your convenience. You don't have to log in or anything like that.
Yeah, and if you're curious as to like what the differences are between what you're getting with Enterprise Edition versus Community, we do have a lot of great blog posts out there as well that kind of cover, hey, here's some of the cool features you can do with Enterprise that you're not really getting with Community. So we've got a lot of great documentation out there on the site as well. And one thing I should note too with all of these products, so as far as like licensing is concerned, Right Click Tools is its own license, Endpoint Insights is its own license, and Shift Left is licensed separately as well. So those are three separately licensed products.
And you can kind of mix and match as well. So if you
Mhm.
have um, if you have like Endpoint Insights and decided not to use like the right click tools, you can use the community edition when like Kody was showing. You have right
Mhm.
click tools in here. You would still have access to like the community edition. If you're have right click tools but don't have Endpoint Insights, we've taken a few of the config manager data reports that you would still have access to in this dashboard. Um, so we do have options for others, and yeah. So
Sweet.
and yeah, and as long as your devices are in config manager, I see the majority of people have like some sort of hybrid environment. So as long as you have your devices in Endpoint Insight or config manager, you
Mhm.
can use the right click tools in those.
Yep. So I'm gonna take over screen sharing here. We can kick it over to Q&A. Let me grab my PowerPoint here. So you should be seeing a QR code. That is our sign up for the giveaway. I will also grab the link here too, so you don't have to like scan malicious QR codes here. Let me grab that. Spam this in the chat here. So if you got any questions, feel free to drop them in the chat or come off mute if you want to as well.
Is there anywhere using right-click tools you're able to see who the top console user is, not just the primary user's field, but who actually uses the device the most?
I'm trying to remember. Let's see. Great question. Top console users. Let's see. One that I don't think I've used it before, so I'd have to go just double check. But let's see.
Well, we
Console users.
currently have Flexera that sort of calculates in some special way. No one knows how that happens. What the
Magic.
primary user of
It's a
exactly.
magic algorithm.
Exactly.
Oh, yes.
So I was just wondering. I know there is a field in the database for top console user, but there's nothing in the UI itself to display that info.
That's fair. I'm not seeing anything that's jumping out on me. I might have to just do some research. We might have a report on that, but uh, I may
If Courtney
promise
doesn't know
this.
off the top of her head, you know you've got a good question.
Yeah.
All right.
Any other questions, comments, concerns?
I got lots of concerns.
Yeah.
That's a topic for another webinar.
That's fair. That's for later. That's for after.
Mhm.
Everyone filling out that form.
Yeah, we've got about 10 responses so far, so you got some pretty good odds at winning these gift cards.
Yeah, sign up for the gift cards. And yeah. Like one of those things though, like I could have sworn I've seen something like that to answer your question,
Yeah,
but
me too.
I can't for the life of
It's
me.
one of those things you come across and you just don't note down what it is or where it is.
Right? Ah, boy. I know I've seen something. I think they look like the same form. I don't know why they got pasted 3 times, Kody, but it's fine.
I was spamming it. It's all the same form. I was
think
trying to take
that's
up
what.
as much chat space as I could, really,
Ah, yeah.
with my malicious links.
We
It's a good
do. Okay,
strategy.
right. We do have so I kind of found something. It's not quite going based on the device itself, but actually the user. So we do have right click tools under like the user accounts. So you could select someone and see what devices they're associated with, whether they're primary or just use that device. Um, I think that might be what I'm recalling, but it would be a great feature request if that's information that might be useful for you.
Thank you.
As 30 some odd people filled out that thing.
We're
little
sitting at
less.
18 responses so far. All I'm going to say is last group we had 37 responses. So we got to get these responses coming in. Let's go.
Uh-huh. Garth already beat me to it. So yeah, so if anybody wants to know the same answer to the question, there's in the chat, Jonathan found a great link that Garth wrote, or a blog post that Garth wrote about it.
I'm going to stop the recording here.
Can we submit